everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Erin Gallagher. I'm a host here at Fiorella's. I've been here for about 2 years and I'm a certified trainer, so I'll be able to answer most of your questions. I'm leading this first PowerPoint for you for your training for becoming a trained host so that you can start your shifts. So this first PowerPoint is all about hospitality from the heart. That is one of our core values here at Fiorella's. So we strive to make the best possible experience for a guest. One of the things that we always discuss is that no matter how delicious the food is, no matter how enjoyable drinks are, the guest is going to remember how they felt. And if they didn't feel comfortable or happy when they were at the restaurant dining in, they're most likely not going to come back. So as a host, how are we going to make a guest have a more enjoyable experience? So we have some more abundant rules, which is answering the phones and seating a guest. We also are going to discuss how we're going to continuously improve the hospitality for a guest throughout our shifts, even if we're not interacting with them at that moment. So the first thing we're going to talk about is when we're actually seating a guest. So when you're seating a guest, what are some things we can do to improve their experience? The primary one is having a smile on your face. As you can see in all of these pictures, the host is smiling. So when you're first greeting a guest, we're the first impression that they're gonna get of the restaurant. They're gonna look at how you're dressed, the way that you're facing them, your body language, if you're prepared or not, having that seating tablet, having a clipboard with you. As you can see in your top left-hand picture, this host, she's smiling, she's interacting with the guest, she's very comfortable, she has her clipboard, she's ready to help them. That shows that she's organized. It's gonna make the guest feel more important. In this bottom center picture, when you're walking with the guest to their table, turning back to make sure they're still with you, it can get very hectic, very busy throughout a shift. If it does, making sure that you're not walking too fast so you can get on to your next step that you need to do, making sure you're giving your attention to the guest who's following you to that table, and then finally presenting the table to them. This is where they're gonna have the most important experience of their whole dining experience in the restaurant. This is where they're going to be served. This is where they're going to be eating their meal. So you want to make sure that this is their golden experience part. So you want to present the table to them. You don't need to do a big gesture, but just as you can see, pointing them, maybe you pull out the chair, inviting the guest to sit down and feel comfortable. And then finally, handing the menus to the guests, making eye contact with them. Here's your dinner menu. Handing it to the female first is something that we've instilled. You want to give the female, and then if it's a family, give it to the kids, and then the man. And if there is a special menu, for example, we have a drink list as well as the specials are found in there, presenting that to them instead of just throwing down a random menu for them. Saying, here's the drink list. It has the specials on the first page. And then finally, making eye contact and saying, enjoy your meal. When you tell a guest to enjoy your meal as that last step, that's the last impression you left in their mind, and that's what they're there to do. They're there to enjoy the meal, enjoy the experience. So those are just some ways that you're going to incorporate hospitality in the seating the guest aspect of your hosting duty. So next, the next most recognizable role that a host has is answering the phone. We are in charge of takeout. We take all of the orders because this is a full service restaurant. So we are the ones who are answering the phone and putting the orders into the computer. So I really like this diagram on the left side of the screen. The first step is making sure you're answering the phone on or before the third ring. Once it gets to the fourth, fifth, maybe even sixth ring, the guest has already waited too long for your attention. You want to give them your attention as soon as you have it available to them. It should be before the third ring. When you're answering the phone, having maybe a nice introduction to the phone call. Thank you for calling. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Something of that sort. But then most importantly, introducing the company immediately into the phone call. So something I say is, thank you for calling Fiorella's in Newton. This is Erin. How may I help you? We do have several locations. That's why you need to specify that they called the one in Newton. But making sure that that guest is welcomed for calling and you introduce the company. If you're not comfortable introducing yourself right away, that's okay, but just something to work towards. And then finally, once you get into the meat of the conversation on the phone, They're probably calling to place a takeout order. So when somebody is taking their time to give you their order, if they say, for example, I don't want the regular pasta, I want gluten-free pasta, going that extra step, is this a gluten allergy or do you just prefer the gluten-free pasta? That shows that you care. That shows that you are taking an interest in their well-being. If it is a gluten allergy, that's another note that you're going to have to put in. You need to take detailed notes so that the kitchen can take the steps they need to make sure the guest gets exactly what they want. Finally, if you do put somebody on hold, which we don't do very often, but if you do, making sure that they're not on hold for too long is really important. If they're waiting too long for your attention, they're eventually going to give up and hang up, and they're not going to have a good experience. If you do not have an answer to a question that a guest has, try to avoid using filler words like it just takes away from the professionality of the phone call. It's hard not to say but just try to work towards not saying it. And then finally, you can hear a smile over the phone. I know that sounds weird, but you absolutely can. You can tell by the tone of somebody's voice if they're happy to be talking to you. So making sure you're smiling, making sure you enjoy the phone call is going to make sure that the guest is also enjoying that phone call. And now, how are we going to incorporate hospitality throughout a shift? We talked about seating, we talked about over the phone. How are we going to just always be hospitable towards our guests? So the first thing is being available to a guest to answer questions, to point them places. As you can see in that top hand picture, this gentleman, he has his full hand. He's pointing them exactly where they need to go. Using just one finger, it's kind of abrupt, it's kind of rude. We want to use our whole hand. Maybe you're putting them to the exit and saying thank you, have a good night. Maybe you're putting them to the restroom. Being available to answer questions is part of our job. In this bottom picture, this gentleman, he's fixing how he's presented. He's fixing his tie. He's making sure he looks good for the guest. That's part of your job, making sure you're presentable. He's carrying around menus, but most importantly, he's smiling. He's walking around showing that he's happy to be there and happy to be in the restaurant. The guests are going to feed off that energy. In this bottom picture, they're making sure that the guest is okay where they're seated. Now, you can definitely tell when a guest is not happy at the table that you brought them to. You can read their feelings towards it. Asking that question, is this table okay? It shows you care, and it's gonna make the guest feel like they can say they don't like the table. A lot of the times, guests are afraid to say that. So taking that extra step shows how much more you care about them. And then finally, probably the most important part is being organized. As you can see, there's a big green check mark on this top picture of the floor plan. That shows the host is ready for the night. She has her pens, her pencils, her highlighters, the clipboard, the menus, everything. She's prepared and organized, which means she's going to be able to give the guest her undivided attention when she's helping them, because she already knows everything she needs to know for the night, where the reservations are going and where she can see to walk in. So that's going to improve their experience because you can give them more of your attention. And most importantly, you want to give the guest your undivided attention. So with that, some takeaways: always having that smile on your face, being able to give the guest your undivided attention no matter how busy you are. Just being there to answer their questions is going to improve their hospitality. So with that, we're going to take a 5 to 10 minute break for you all to get some water, maybe use the restroom. We'll reconvene right here in 5 minutes or so.